Hey folks, welcome back. It's been a while since I posted something up on the channel here, mainly because I've been stuck working on this. This has been a real problem, this KZ1000 police bike. And where it's at right now is it's going back to the owner, but it's not correct. It's not 100%. It's not running right. And I got to be honest with you folks, I can't figure out why. There comes a time, you know, in every mechanic's life, or their work life that is, or even somebody that does it as a hobby, if they work on other people's stuff for any reason, you're going to come across one you just can't fix. Now, there's really nothing you can't fix if you throw enough money and time into it, right? But for the budget that I have on this, and because of the situation, and I'll go over that here in detail here in a second, I can't fix it. I cannot figure out what's going on with this. This one has completely baffled me. And like I said, it happens. I knew it would happen someday, but I didn't think it would happen with this. So I'll show you, or I'll explain exactly what's going on with it. Tell you what I'm doing about it, administratively mainly. And then we're going to have to move on. So anyway, you know, I feel kind of bad about this one, but because it runs like crap. And again, I can't figure out why. So let's go over it. Maybe one of you guys knows, because honestly, I don't. Okay, so you know what the issue was before, because if you watch the other videos, you know about that. I'm not going to rehash that. The issue right now is this thing runs really crappy. It's hard to start. It runs really crappy even when warm at idle. And the only way I can get this to run without running away, in other words, when I hit the throttle, it hangs very high RPM, is I have to turn the slow screws all the way off. In other words, they are closed. All 4 slow screws are closed to get it to run right, to get it to run decent. All right, and you know, my definition of decent is not 100%. I don't find this thing 100%. Anyway, so let me tell you what I've checked. I have checked the valve clearances. I have checked the valve or the cam timing. I've replaced the coils because the coil on number 2 and 3, which is actually on this side, showed high resistance on the secondary coil side of the coil. I put 2.2 ohm dynacoils in with new wires. It's sparking real well now. And I found a problem in the mechanical advancer that was all rusted. I took that apart and cleaned it up. So that's operating properly. As far as the carbs go, you've seen in the other video, I did everything on these carbs and I have verified everything 4 times now, okay, 4 times. The slides are correct. The slide needles are correct. The numbers on the needles are correct for this application according to the service data and the parts fiche. The float, or I should say the fuel service level on all 4 carbs is about right here where it's supposed to be. And the jets are all correct. I have checked the jetting numbers and the jets are correct. The slow jet is 37.5 and the main is I think 125 or 127.5, one of the two. It is correct. The slides, are the diaphragms rather, are all in correctly. I've changed the carb holders because I suspected those would be a problem because it seemed like a vacuum leak. That wasn't it. I have verified that all the choke plungers, the enricher plungers, are closing. Did have a problem on one of those, I think on number 3 here, where it wasn't. I got all those closing. That's all good. I cannot find anything even remotely close in these carbs that's a problem. I can't. I have, like I said, I've checked them 4 times now. I've had them on and off and on the bike. And I can't figure it out. I cannot find a problem with it. It has a stock air box. There's no leaks here that obviously it's not perfect, but there's no leaks here. These are sealing up as they nominally would do in this condition as far as the engine and the other rubber components go, which doesn't necessarily say a lot, but they are sealing up enough. You know, compared to what I've had in the past, those are fine. So let's see, what else? There's no exhaust restrictions that I can tell. There's no blockages on any of the venting, like for example on the crankcase vent here. That's fine. I checked that. I have checked everything. As far as the electrical system goes, it is charging. It's 13.8 to 14.2, so it's exactly right where it's supposed to be. So it's supplying good voltage to the ignition system. I have cleaned up a bunch of wiring on this thing, some of it on the ignition system, so that I know that's good. The grounds are good. Everything is hooked up. And, you know, like I said, I just can't get it to run right. It runs like crap at an idle. And it's particularly at an idle. Well, you know what? I'll tell you what I'll do. Just for you guys, I'll go ahead and set you up on the stand, and we'll start it up, and I'll show you what I mean. Maybe you do need to hear it after all, because like I said, I just can't get this thing to run right. But let me show you what I mean. You know, I had a bunch of footage shot on this thing that I wanted to show you all on different stuff, and it's pointless now because the dang thing just doesn't want to run right. So here you go. Let me try this. That's on full choke. That's choke off now. I know it's cold, but yeah. Obviously that's with the choke off, but it just does not want to run. Choke back on. Half choke. It'll get a little better when it warms up, but not much. Part of that noise is the lift vibrating. So anyway, that's as good as I can get it to run. I can't get it to run any better than that. And that runs like crap. And I can't figure it out. I honestly cannot figure out what is going on with this thing. Because the compression on this is like in the 145 to 155 range. I think number 4 was almost 160, but it's definitely within a 10% variance between cylinders. I fixed a number 2 spark plug hole with a time cert, so that's good. And like I said, the compression's pretty even between all 4 cylinders. And I cannot figure this out. No matter what I do, I shoot individual, the individual ends here. I should say the exhaust. Individual ends, yeah, where's my brain? With a laser temp, and they're all about the same after this thing warms up. But it doesn't appear to be firing regularly on one cylinder, and again, I can't figure out why. And I don't know. So what else did I do to it? Well, as far as the engine and the carbs go, that was pretty much it. But like I said, I have absolutely verified 100% that everything is good on this bike. Everything. And that's good. And there, I don't know. I just cannot figure out what's going on with it. It's just not running worth a damn. And if anybody out there has any ideas, I'd be sure willing to listen to them, because like I said, I'm completely baffled and I have no place to go right now. So, you know, I'm done. That's pretty much it. What I have to show you, unless something else pops up in my brain that I can't remember. That's pretty much it. So let me tell you what the disposition's ultimately going to be. All right, so because I really couldn't fix this thing, unfortunately I'm going to have to eat the labor. I'm going to eat all the labor. I've already backed the labor out and sent the owner a ticket just based on the parts, materials, and costs. So that's my policy. I don't charge labor if I can't fix it, even if it's not something that's within my control, or something outside my control rather. So that's where it's going to go. But like I said, this is a very frustrating job because I honestly cannot figure out what is going on here. Unless I've missed something, which I really don't believe I have, there is no reason why this thing should be running the way it is right now. I wish I had another carb rack to throw on it. I would try that, but I do not. Got nothing. And I had one here not too long ago, but the owner of the Z1R, he took that back with him. I could have probably thrown those on, old set of round slides at least, and see how it ran. But I don't have them. So the thing is, I just don't know. I mean, I am completely baffled by this one. So yeah, anyway, the good parts are I did some repairs to some of the features of the bike, which is kind of cool. Like these hazards didn't work. If you ever watch Chips and they're running these things down the road, the only lights that flash are these rear ambers. These are add-ons here from the owner. I hooked them up to the same circuit, obviously. So now this hazard circuit works. This was not functional before. And the reason why was there's an orange with a green wire that comes back, goes from 1 into 2, one of those double connectors. And that's supposed to go to a diode pack, which I built out of some 6 amp diodes. Which do an isolation, so when it's in a hazard mode, for example, it's only powering the hazard circuit, and vice versa when you go to signal mode. So if I turn it over to signal now, ignition has to be on. Never mind. If I turn it over to ignition with the turn signal on, then that would take over. And did some other stuff, cool stuff on it, and I found a key for the owner for this box here. This was kind of interesting. When I was on the fire department, one of my jobs was I did radio communications, and so I got to know the guys at the radio shop pretty well. Now, we didn't deal with Motorola stuff, but I know they had familiarity with it. I contacted one of my buddies that used to work at a radio shop on Facebook, and I said, hey, do you know the key number that would be for this lock? And he knew it's a 2135 Motorola key. And I found one on eBay for just a couple bucks. And so now I got that working. That was just going to be something I was going to throw in as kind of a gift to the customer. And now the gift I'm giving them back is the thing doesn't run worth shit. So I feel really bad about this. I mean, I really feel terrible. But I have to move on. He doesn't have the budget. If I was going to charge him I can't do any more for free. I'm done with that. I said I wasn't going to do that, but in this case I will, because I feel responsible for the fact that I wasn't able to fix it. So, but you know, even if I was going to run the labor clock continuously here to try to figure out what was wrong with this thing, he can't afford it. He already gave me a budget, and I can barely get within that if I charged him all the labor that I have so far into this bike, and I'm giving a lot of stuff away on top of that. So yeah, now I have my suspicions as to what possibly could be the problem as why it's running roughly. I think I suspect, and this is what I'd like to verify, is that this thing might have a bent connecting rod because of the fact that we had number 1 and 2 overflowing, and he said it was pouring out the air box from number 2. It's totally possible that the number 2 cylinder, or maybe even number 1, because I found that float stuck too, had hydrolocked. And this thing may, if it was in the exact right position where number 3 or number 4, remember the firing order is 1, 2, 4, 3. So let's say it's number 2. So 1, 2, 4, 3. So if number 4 or number 3 was in a position and this number 2 cylinder had fuel in it, okay? 1, 2, 4, 3. So 4 and 3 are going to fire before 1 and 2 again. If this thing fired on either 4 or 3 and compressed that gasoline, which is uncompressible in number 2, it is certainly possible that there's a bent connecting rod, and that's why it's running so crappy. You'd think that you'd see that on the compression readings, but doesn't necessarily mean that's the case, because number 1 and 2 are lower than number 3 and 4 on the compression readings. So that kind of adds up a little bit, but not significantly so. But it doesn't take much of a bend like that to cause a serious imbalance. So that could be the problem. The other possibility is, and this is very remote, is that the choke plungers are bypassing. But I don't believe that's the case, and there's no way to test that. And you can't get them out unless you split the rack. There's not enough room in between each carburetor to get those plungers out. They are on the other side of here. I'll show you one right here. You can see the one on number 1. And all this rubber here is no good. So, you know, I oiled them all up real well, and they are operating properly, but I don't believe them to be a problem because all of them are indeed closing. They are all closing. When I had the carbs out, I could push on each one of these plungers, and they were definitely seated because there's like a little spring right there that pushes them in once this thing is from the extended to the retracted mode rather. Getting eaten up by skeeters here. So anyway, I have to give up. I hate giving up, and I always say that I never quit, but in this case I got to quit. Got to move on because again, customer does not have the budget to do this, and I honestly don't know which direction to go in. I do not know where to go on this right now. If it was mine, I tell you what I would do. I'd pull the cylinder head off because this top end's pretty much bad anyway. I mean, it does burn some oil. I can smell it. I can smell it more than I can see it, but it definitely burns oil. I'd pull the cylinder head off and get prepared to pull the jugs off. Before I pull the jugs off, I'd take a look at the pistons coming up the top dead center at the deck height, and I bet you one of them is going to be down a little bit, like number 2 or something. I bet you this thing got a bent con rod, but I'm not 100% sure, like I said. And you know, at that point I just rebuild the top end, and maybe while I'm waiting on parts or something, go through the carbs one more time just to make sure I didn't miss something, and I put it back together and it might run properly. I don't know. It could be failing under combustion, you know, as far as compression goes. It could be a number of things, but it's just impossible to tell. I can only go off of the numbers that I can evaluate based on the testing equipment that I have. So, yeah. So anyway, that's it on this job. Probably the last you'll see of it, I'm pretty sure. And we're going to move on. But I wanted to give you an update and show you what's going on. And I'm not afraid to admit when I have to pass on something or quit, because I just don't know. Like I said, maybe you guys do. If anybody out there has any ideas as to what I could be missing on this, I would be most appreciative if you would let me know. All right, till next time, thanks for watching. Sorry about this. We'll catch you on the next video.